It's New Year's Eve in the Vendée Globe, the skipper's 51st day at sea, and there has been another lead change. Charlie Dalin is back in front of Yoann Richomme as this extraordinary race continues to unfold. We had our fifth withdrawal from the race yesterday, sadly, and we hear a little bit about what happened there with Yannick Bestaven. And then we hear from Seb Simon in third place and how he's been making gains, but the light winds conditions are making that progress relatively tricky. And then we hear from Giancarlo Pedote, who's got problems with the rudder systems on his boat, followed by a little bit from Boris Herrmann, who is fascinated with the colour of the sea in the South Atlantic. We then take a look at the tracker, the leaderboard, and then predict wind options for leader Dalin, and also for Seb Simon, and it looks like there's a bit of a sting in the tail of this Vendée Globe in the North Atlantic coming up, which all the sailors are going to have to watch out for. And then we join Conrad Colman, who gives us a little tour of one of his maintenance tours around the boat. Sadly, soon after I recorded yesterday's video, Yannick Bestaven on his Maître CoQ V was forced to withdraw from the Vendée Globe. He has stopped in Ushuaia to repair the various problems his boat has suffered in recent days. This work cannot be carried out alone, so part of his technical team will be joining him in Argentina. In rough seas, he'd had a major breakdown to the steering systems on his yacht, but the skipper, who's an engineer, managed to set up a temporary solution using ropes to steer his boat round Cape Horn on Sunday, December the 29th. After assessing the situation and studying the different options with his team, Bestaven decided to stop over in Ushuaia to repair his boat with his team. He also lost his code 0 on Christmas Eve, damaging his starboard foil when recovering the sail from the water. Also, a few days later, his FR0 headsail was destroyed during a squall. Bestaven, who won the 2021 Vendée Globe, had announced that this marked his last solo race. He is still keen to sail his boat back solo to Les Sables d'Olonne once it is reliable.
For the moment, the weather is pretty light. There is some waves, so the sea state is not really good, but the wind is really light. For the moment, I have 6 knots of wind, so all the day it was in between 6 and 8 knots. So it's really light, and I expect to have this kind of wind during 2 days. So yeah, for the moment I'm staying focused on the course, on the speed of the boat. I hope that I will keep this wind and I keep the boat going on, because if the boat is fully stopped, it's gonna be not the same. Regarding the two leaders, yeah, I try to do my own course. I don't want to stay focused or lost energy to watch the others, because I think we have not the same condition. I expect that they will start probably one day before me, but we'll see. We are not in the same position. They are more east than me. Probably for the future, it's gonna be better. But when you checking the weather forecast, on especially the Azores high pressure, so it's in more than 1 week, the high pressure is pretty big. So to be more east, it's maybe the best thing for the trade winds, but to pass through the high pressure, maybe to be more west, it's not so bad. So I really don't know. I prefer to stay focused on my course. For sure, I am watching Thomas Ruyant. He's upwind all the day. He was upwind all the day, and maybe it's gonna be the same for the next days. I expect that he will come back a bit, but at the end, I expect to keep my advantage. For the moment, I have 1,000 miles ahead, so I'm pretty happy. About me, so the weather is warmer than before, so I took a shower today. I spent more than 1 month without any shower, so that it's really great. I feel really good. The temperature is really great, and I can go on the deck to watch the sky, the sunrise, the sunset, and all the stars. So it's a really good moment in this Vendée Globe. All the Vendée Globe was really intense. The boat was really fast all the Southern Ocean. So to have a boat a bit slower for a moment, it's really great for myself. I can try to manage the boat, take care of the boat, and try to fix small things before the North Atlantic Ocean. We have still a big 15, 16 days of sailing before to finish the race. So for the moment, it's pretty calm, but we are expected that the North Atlantic Ocean a few days before the finish line, it will be probably pretty hard conditions. So it's really important to take care of the boat right now.
Bon voilà, ça c'est notre safran. On a un problème à les hooks. Et donc pour mettre les safrans dans les logements, comme je ne pouvais pas les faire avec les bouts pour hooker les safrans parce que après le système des barres il prend trop de charges. Et en plus si jamais je pète ces bouts là, après c'est fini. Je ne pourrai plus remettre mon safran à l'intérieur de son logement. Donc j'ai mis un premier ballon, 6 brins qui est pris dans l'anneau, dans la padaille là, et il prend la partie du safran à l'arrière et la structure en carbone. Et après il y a un deuxième ballon qui fait le même trajet et qui revient du coup du lashing d'inéma qui tient les casques dans son logement. Il passe dans les padailles pour baisser les points de tir là, dans les padailles titane. Et il revient au winch, ici. Donc j'ai un double système de sécurité. Bah voilà, c'est un peu comme ça qu'on a rendu les safrans fixes. Après, jusqu'à présent, j'avais mis des sangles à cliquer, j'en ai explosé 2. Et après, une fois la sangle, là, le lashing a glissé vers le haut. Et il m'a cassé et il a fait sauter une partie en airtalite. Et voilà, il faudra qu'on répare dès que les conditions ils vont s'améliorer.
The sea looks so green. I don't know why that is. I will ask around a bit. I have seen that in the North Atlantic that with algae blooms we had the green sea like that. But it's very astonishing. An amazing color, looks beautiful.
The tracker at 0600 hours shows us that Charlie Dalin is in the lead, making 6.6 knots but sailing upwind, but very much covering Yoann Richomme in second place. Seb Simon, who was making such good gains, is now only 282 nautical miles behind the leader, but is stuck doing just over 3 knots in very light winds. And if we look forward 24 hours in the weather picture, the position out to the east is looking a little bit more favourable, but to the west still very light winds, so Seb Simon's comeback could be a little bit thwarted by this. The group from 4th to 10th are in decent pressure, although making their way upwind as it's coming from the north. We can see there Thomas Rouillon in 4th place, making just over 15 knots, which is great when you're considering he's going upwind. And then this incredibly tightly bunched group between 4th and 10th place. At the moment it's suggesting that Paul Milhat is in 6th place, but I'd say he's probably in 5th just because he's made his way further north, and that Nico Lundven, who is suggesting his 5th, is actually in 6th place. We can see there Jeremy Bayou in 7th. Sam Goodchild has moved up to 8th, ahead of Boris Herrmann. But it's going to be so interesting to see how this plays out, because this tracker looks more akin to something you'd see approaching a windward mark in an inshore race than an offshore race, which is 17,500 nautical miles in. And then we've got Justine Metro in 10th, not out of the picture whatsoever. Next to round Cape Horn will be the group of Clarisse Kramer in 11th, Benjamin Dutroux in 12th and Sam Davies in 13th place. There are unusually light winds at Cape Horn at the moment, and so both Clarisse Kramer and Benjamin Dutroux are being slowed up a little bit by that, and we can actually look forward 24 hours and we can see that Sam Davies is coming down on stronger pressure, so could make a bit of a comeback after that northerly route that she took to try and avoid the worst of the storms dropped her back a little bit. Either side of Point Nemo we can see a couple more of those really tight groupings that this Vendée Globe has been characterised by. In 16th place, Jean Le Cam with his dagger boards has been hugging that ice boundary all the way through the Pacific. And there in 19th we've got Giancarlo Pedote, who we heard from, who has those rudder issues where he's had to rig up that jury system. And then we've got Violet d'Orange in 26th place, Kajiro Shiraishi in 27th and Conrad Colman in 28th, who we will hear from shortly. The latest ranking there shows us that Dalin has a 20 nautical mile lead over Yoann Richomme, with Seb Simon now 282 nautical miles behind in third place. But look at those average speeds, just 6.38 knots for Dalin, and days like this really don't help when you're trying to beat the record in the Vendée Globe. That group there between 5th and 10th place, so close together. You've got in 5th Nico Lundven, and it's less than 100 nautical miles to Justine Metro in 10th place. So those places all still completely up for grabs. Then we've got the group who are approaching Cape Horn at the moment, led by Clarice Kramer, but only 4 nautical miles ahead of Benjamin Dutroux. Scrolling down a bit, we can see there Giancarlo Pedote, who we just talked about with his rudder problems, and also there Conrad Colman making decent progress to the east at just under 13 knots. And down at the bottom we've got those 5 abandonments now, with Yannick Bestaven joining that list. So still 35 boats racing, which at this stage of the Vendée Globe is quite incredible. Sailworld.com's New Zealand editor Richard Gladwell has compiled PredictWind routing options for Charlie Dalin here. And as he makes his way up the Brazilian coast, it starts off complicated before hooking in to those east-southeasterly breezes. Now, it's once he's through the doldrums, the intertropical convergence zone, it's then looking for the deep depressions that make their way across the Atlantic from west to east. But it looks like there is a particularly nasty storm developing. And then around the Azores, you've got a exclusion zone. And that means you may be forced into the strongest winds. And the blacks and the greys there are 45 to 50 knots. So we'll be watching out carefully for that when the time comes. For Seb Simon in third place, there are even more complex weather conditions as he makes his way up the Brazilian coast, and PredictWind is suggesting some seriously diverging routes. We can take a look. That westerly option stays close to the coast, whereas the easterly option is right out in the centre of the South Atlantic, and as they cross the equator, the divergence gets even wider, one heading towards America and one going past the Canary Islands, which they crossed on the way back down the Atlantic at the start of the race. The westerly option then hooks into that low pressure system, whereas the easterly option actually goes to the east of the Azores before they all start to converge as he makes his way towards Les Sables d'Olonne and the finish line.
The sun just came up. And where we're going, the sun don't shine. So this is the sail locker, and then heading forwards, I'm going to do a little check in the bow. So, this is the first bow compartment. This is the J3. This here is the J2. crash box at the very front of the boat. So it's all dried in there. Here we've got a tiny amount. You know, the crazy thing about this boat, and most of the Mochas like it, is that they're all made like this. The front of the boat is made up of these ribs, these reinforcements, and the skin in between the ribs on this boat is 5 to 6 millimeters thick. So you can hear those waves crashing underneath us. Oh! There's only 5 millimeters of carbon fiber separating me from the Southern Ocean right now. So this is a little bit of a scary thought, but you get used to it after a while. And I come up here regularly to do a check to make sure that everything is still glued together okay, and that the structure of the boat is okay. And then I get out of here because it's pretty uncomfortable, pretty noisy, and not particularly ergonomic. Let's go. Ow, in and out. So there you go. Front of the boat still attached, still in one piece. Let's go take on Point Nemo.
Wishing a happy new year to all of our viewers. Please do subscribe to our channel using the button down here, and take a look at sailworld.com and yachtsandyachting.com for all the latest news in sailing. See you all in 2025.